Greetings and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. In this video, we will be doing a first look at the game Holland 44. It is the 80th anniversary of Operation Market Garden this month, and I wanted to take a look at a couple of the games that cover that particular operation. And obviously, I am a fan of the 4X series, and so I wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to take a look at the game Holland 44. This, of course, is from the 4X series, as I just mentioned. It is designed by Mark Simonitch. A very cool cover art here from Antonis Karidis. And so let's take a look at the back. So it says right there, Operation Market Garden, right? Holland 44 is a two-player game depicting the Allies' combined ground and airborne attack in the Netherlands during World War II, which was codenamed Operation Market Garden. The daring plan to grab critical bridges across the Netherlands had the potential of opening up a clear road into Germany. However, remnants of several battered German divisions were in the area and were able to slow the ground offensive and almost totally destroy the British 1st Airborne Division. The Allied offensive was a failure. So this was made famous by Cornelius Ryan's book, A Bridge Too Far, which was also made into a motion picture. It was definitely a daring operation. Conceived by Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery, did not work, so ultimately it was a failure. So just to kind of recap here what this is, the game uses the simple move, fight, supply game system developed in Normandy 44 and Ardennes 44. Important elements like troop supply, troop quality, tank quality, artillery support, and command and control are all reflected in the game. Special rules for airborne landings, airborne supply, bridge destruction, and repair are also included. The game covers the first critical 7 days of the battle with a 20-turn campaign game and an 11-turn tournament scenario. So you get your look at the counters. As always, our game designer here for this series is Mark Simonitch. Art director was Roger B. McGowan. This is a very McGowan-ish image right here. So in here we have a full-size game map, or map sheet rather, of 22 by 34 inches. Then there's an additional map section of 17 by 22. Get a look here. It's a very long map, which is kind of the footprint of that operation. Your airborne landings were in the north. Up here, this is Arnhem, Nijmegen. So you got these two right here were the main areas. And then you had the 30th Corps trying to go up to link up and take advantage of those bridges to head into Germany. This is the Lower Rhine region in the Netherlands. So this would have been a bridge across the Rhine River, basically, and into the North German plain. So aside from that, we get 2 sheets of counters, 2 identical player aid cards, a scenario card, a rules booklet, and 2 6-sided dice. Complexity is on the high end of medium. It's a 6 out of 10. And our solitaire suitability is on the low end of high with a 7 rating. And this is, if I did not mention it already, published by GMT Games. Now we'll take a look inside the box. Well, as always, baggies provided by GMT. Here are our 2 die, or 2 dice, I should say, a red and a gray. Nice, weighty, good quality dice here, actually. All right, and we have our Dear Customer note, signed by Deb, I think. And this is just the note that comes with the games from GMT when they've packed it to make sure that everything is in there. We do have a little bit of errata here. Following should be added to the scenario at start. Instructions: 4 of the 5 bridges along the Bocholt Herentals Canal start the game blown. So you have some blown bridges. Then we have our rules of play. So we'll start with the rules and work our way through. So we've got a 40-page-ish rule book here. Probably a little bit more than 40 because of the... Oh, it is 40. So here's our expanded sequence of play. Let's tighten up the shot a little bit. All right. So rules of play, introduction. It is a 2-player game, right? We know that. So we have our acronyms here. Most of them are familiar to people who play war games and or especially those who've played 4X series games. We got our inventory, which matches what's on the back of the box. Here's our map. The scale of each hex is 2 kilometers. You consult the terrain effects chart for a complete list of the map's terrain and how it affects movement and combat. Rivers inside a hex. Ignore minor rivers that flow through the middle of a city or marsh hex. The importance of the river as a barrier to movement and an aid to defense has been mitigated by the surrounding terrain. So see this, think this, basically. So you don't have to worry about rivers when they cross through a hex. They've already been accounted for. Infantry unit. So you've got your. Let me pick this up. We'll make it a little bit easier to see here for you guys. So here you can see you've got unit size, unit ID, the attack strength on the left, defense strength, and morale rating in the middle. And our movement allowance on the right, that's across the bottom. Then your unit type, of course, this is an airborne unit. And we have 3 steps, and it's arrival information right there in the upper corner. Then you have your tank unit information, motorized infantry, and then on the artillery side, and you have your airborne supply head. So this being an airborne-oriented operation, you, of course, have to have rules for airborne operations, right? Makes sense. So this is all described here. Then we have the steps, which is pretty typical for this particular series. You'll have step counters for the various numbers of steps. So we have a 3, 2, 1 kind of situation. Then you have your unit types with their NATO symbology and everything right here. What counts as armored unit, what counts as tank units. The various types of armored units are also in here for everything from a Stug 3 up to a Tiger 2 on the German side. You've got the Sherman and Cromwell, of course, for the Allies. And then you've got reconnaissance, you've got your 88 flak, etc. Vehicle units, tank units, they all have their own kind of special rules. We have a bunch of markers here. You'll probably be wanting to make sure you're familiar with the out of supply guys right there. Disruption, full retreat, blown bridges, scattered for airborne landings, engaged, the artillery has been moved, sequence of play outline. So you get a weather phase, then the Allied turn, then the German turn, and the player turns consist of artillery resupply, bridge phase, air landing for the Allied player only, movement, combat, recovery, supply, and the traffic marker phase for German players only. So just like in, say, the Ardennes, you had traffic issues for the Germans getting troops to the areas where the Allies had landed their airborne troops to kind of get into combat and try to defeat them. Victory check phase. So here's weather. There's the procedure for it. You roll your die, and if it's an AM turn or a PM turn, they're slightly different. You have clear, cloudy, overcast for day turns, and then clear, cloudy, and overcast for night turns. The effects of the weather, bridge demolition and repair. That's obviously important. This operation was all about the bridges. So this is incredibly important. So we need to make sure we definitely know how that works. Stacking. Zocs and Zoc bonds, the famous Zoc bond. This is the Zoc bond series, of course. So a hex with at least 2 steps of combat units in good order can form a Zoc bond. And you get examples of them right here. So you have a Zoc bond here, but not here because of the intervening river hex. Then you have one here, even despite the fact that there is an enemy unit there. And this is broken, of course, again, because, well, why is D and E broken? D and E is broken because the Zoc bond must be pushed below the river and so crosses a major river hex side. C, D. Okay, so, and we have movement and the various types, including tactical, extended, road. This is all pretty standard from within this series. Movements in woods, polder, and marsh hexes, automatic DS. You can see there's a marker for auto DS. Combat rules, multi-hex, combat procedure, minimum and maximum odds, major rivers and how they affect combat. Again, bridges and rivers, big part of this particular campaign. Our combat modifiers, including control and command control and formations. Allied core level, we've got the armor shift. Again, this is all very much a part of this series. You have your armor shift, you have your anti-tank modifier, your morale shift, air support, terrain modifiers, etc., including polder. Combat results, so you get your explanation of combat things. So the DS that we just saw, auto DS, that's defender shattered. And then you have other ones here as well. They all make sense. You just have to know what the abbreviations stand for. Select how you select your step losses. We've got our determined defense. Another key part of this particular series is the option to have a determined defense when you don't want to retreat. Then you have retreat procedures, of course, disruption and recovery, advance after combat, breakthrough combat, artillery, supply, which is incredibly important, as it always is, reinforcement and entry areas, night turns and replacements, break down units and merging units. So you can break your units down, you can merge them back together. You've got airborne landing rules, of course, which are a critical part of this particular game. So you've got all kinds of stuff. You got your drop hacks, the restrictions on where you can drop, your procedures for air landing. You can have scattered, whether it's a contested hex if it's adjacent to an enemy unit, including an unknown unit, but there's also a friendly unit in or adjacent to that same hex. We have an example right here. Airborne artillery, etc., air landing points, the Polish Airborne Brigade, and returnees. Then you've got special rules, all kinds of, not all kinds, but several special rules, such as bridging units, the Allied Engineers, British Corps boundaries, the German 406th Division. Oh, so this is to recreate the concerns that the 82nd Airborne leadership had about how many German troops would attack and how fast from across the German border. The Thiel and Hertogenbosch garrisons, reconnaissance units, traffic markers, unknown units. So obviously you did have some good fog of war. They're dropping behind enemy lines. They weren't, of course, certain about what they were facing. And then how to win. So you got your victory conditions here. And then we have some optional rules. And then, of course, our scenarios. You have the short game and the campaign game. Some hints for players. And here is our extended example of play beginning on page 26. So as is always the case with the 4X games, they always provide an excellent example of play. This is something that I've come to rely upon when I first break one of these games out to play it, is you go through this and it tells you exactly how to, step by step, you go through the sequence and you learn how things work. Learn by doing kind of situation. And it is extensive. So you have your Allied turn, then your German player turn, as you can see, and then it even goes into turn 2. And then you have your designer notes and all the various little nuances of this particular campaign. And then your summary of important rules, your Allied reinforcement schedule, and our credits are here as well. And then our extended or expanded sequence of play. Now let's take a look at our player aid stuff. We have our setup card. This is the setup for the Germans here. Then your allies here, single-sided. Right, then we have our player aid card, 2 identical player aid cards. So if we flip one over, as is usually the case, on one you have combat stuff, such as our CRT, plus some and the explanation of results and combat modifiers in this top area. Down here you've got your bridge demolition, your air landing, your disengagement, and your determined defense table. Over here we have our terrain stuff. So here's your TEC, and then the abbreviations and notes. And then you have your isolation attrition table, your exit EZOC cost, combat zone recovery table, and your weather table. So 1 copy for each player. Now we'll look at our counters here. 2 counter sheets. So this would be sheet 1 right here. And we'll take a nice tight look at this. These are German units here, and you can see they've got some, these darker blue ones are Luftwaffe Fallschirmjäger units. Then you've got some regular Wehrmacht as well. And we've got some SS, of course. And we've got the various armor. You can see the 280 Stug, Mielke, which is probably the name of the commander, I would guess. Hummel. You've got a heavy armored unit here. Here's our famous Flak 88 guns, etc. And then on this side we have some American units. I'm assuming, yes, they have the 101st Airborne there at the top. If we get really tight here, you can see 82nd Airborne units, right? First of the 504th of the 82nd, right there in the upper left. Then you got the 2nd, the 3rd, etc., all the way across. And yeah, so these are battalion level, I guess. Yeah, battalions. So you got 1st Battalion of the 504th Regiment of the 82nd Airborne there going across the top. You've got 1, 2, and 3. Then you've got 1, 2, and 3 of the 505, 508th Regiment, etc. And then you've got the same up here for the 101st Screaming Eagles. They've got their 3 battalions of the 501st, then the 3 battalions of the 502nd, etc. Down here we've got the British 1st Airborne Division. Same kind of scenario. They're battalion level. So you have the 1st Parachute Regiment, and then you have the 2nd Parachute Regiment, I'm assuming, somewhere, or the 4th at least. Then we've got armor. This is British armor. This would be part of the 30th Corps. And more 30th Corps forces here. I love the little insignia for the various units. I think that's a brilliant and well done touch, and it's also a lot of fun to look at. We have our Polish Brigade here as well. So that's very, very cool in my opinion. Now over here we have some more Allied stuff, some more airborne. These are the remnant units. So when you take enough casualties, you're left with remnants. That's what these represent. We have some more Germans down here. We have some unknown units as well. Airborne replacement. We've got some traffic markers, etc. There's our auto DS. There's our scattered, blown bridges, out of supply, disruption. Some aircraft on the other side here. You've got full retreat, spent, etc., etc. Then we've got successful bridges being held. All kinds of cool stuff on here. And that leaves us with the map. So there are 2 map sheets. I will open it up a little bit here, but I may save the full map reveal for when we do actual gameplay, which I may do on Vassal only because of a space issue, more so than anything else. But I did want to kind of show the map, at least a little bit. Some of it's special. So here we have Eindhoven, right here, and at the north, you have the bottom part of Nijmegen right here. So this would be where some of the bridges would be. Let's grab the other map, which is the smaller section of the map, and we'll just put that on here because this is the more interesting area in terms of the airborne landings. So right here we have Arnhem, right? City. Here are our bridges. We have also a rail. There is a rail bridge. I know that. So yeah, you have bridges that you must seize, right? Some of them are blown at start, and then the same thing down here in Nijmegen as well. And then of course your 30th Corps is the ground forces that would be moving up from the south, so they would be coming from this bottom area down here. Down here we have our tracks, terrain key, etc. So here's our terrain, right? We've got north-south. Here's our turn record track, weather track, all this stuff at the bottom. So as I said, I'll show the map in its entirety when I do the playthrough. But that's going to do it for now. I do appreciate you guys watching. This is our first look at Holland 44, Operation Market Garden, designed by Mark Simonitch and published by GMT Games. And that's going to do it. So if you have any questions, comments, etc., feel free to post them and I'll do my best to reply. And other than that, that's going to do it. I'm Joe. This is the Hexed Encounter channel. And until next time, as always, happy gaming.